Cool. So the recording is getting started. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to everyone someone you already know and love, the wonderful, about to be professor and public speaker, is Madalyn Smith, MS. So she is going to share with us why and what is yours. So Madalyn, it's all yours.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So this is a presentation that I've given at a couple of different conferences and have sort of adapted to many different genres of life. So as we go through this, you can think about your professional life, you can think about your personal life. It is largely designed with a professional life in mind and kind of building a foundation for what your personal brand looks like within the professional world that you've chosen to work in. But I want to start with a story because what is me without a story? So the very first time that I ever gave this presentation, I was at a conference in which there were prizes to be won. And one of the prizes was an annual National Parks Pass. And if you've ever attempted to purchase one of those, they're relatively expensive. So I did the very wise, logical thing and put all of the tickets that I had been earning from the conference, into this soul bag. I put all of my eggs into one basket. And I was like, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. And we're sitting at the table, the lunch table where they're calling out announcements. And people are winning things like state park passes, Roombas, big giant coffee machines. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's me. Like, I won. And you're like, can you get just a little bit excited, please? Just a little bit excited. So then we get to the national parks bag and I've got like 20 tickets laid out in front of me and I'm checking each one as they're calling out each number. And there's one ticket where every number, and then they call the very last number and it's mine. I scream. Like I jolt out of my chair, I knock it backwards, I knock over my water and my neighbor's water because I was just so thrilled to actually win, which was entertaining for the entire conference. But also something very interesting happened after that. Anyone else that won, there was a much higher reaction level than there had been before. And I am convinced that that is because my genuine reaction and my over-the-top emotions actually gave people permission to have feelings and to show feelings. So this is me giving you a permission slip right now at the beginning of this presentation for you to actually tap into some feelings, to find all those feelings that you've got inside, because that's how we make real connections. That's how we make real brands. That's how we find that why we do the things that we do, is when we connect with our actual feelings and emotions. The other thing I want you to do is to channel your inner Missy Elliott and consider putting your thing down, flipping it, and then reversing it. This is presenting to basically a quiet room is a very interesting experience for me. So I will just continue to laugh at my own jokes and it'll be fine. So a lot of times we sit in presentations and we hear information that we've already heard, or we hear information that we think doesn't apply to us. And so again, I want you to channel your inner Missy Elliott. And if you find yourself at some point thinking, I already know all of this, like this is not new information, I want you to challenge that. And I want you to think, what else can I learn? Like, what is something that I can learn from this subject that I think I already know everything on? Because there's always something else for each of us to learn. And then the other way that you can put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it is if you start thinking this doesn't apply to me or this isn't going to work for me, I want you to change that to how might this serve me if I believed that it could work for me. So even if you're like convinced that you can't learn anything from this, I want you to think, okay, let's just play pretend for a minute. And what if this could apply to me? So with your permission slip and your Missy Elliott reference in hand, away we go. So I'm going to talk, most of what I talk about today is built on how to create your personal brand. And I learned all of this from the woman that I am clam dancing with in a giant clam. It's a very specific dance. I'll teach it to you all later. And at a branding workshop that I went to almost like 2 years ago. And this woman, her name is Allison Faulkner, and she runs the Allison Show and Allison's Brand School. I'm very, very obsessed. So if you followed me on Instagram, odds are you've seen about 800 things of hers that I have shared with the world. She's got a podcast. She's got a ton of great content out there. And I just really, really love it. And it's cool because she only lives like an hour from where I am. And I've gone to enough of her events that if I show up in person, she recognizes me and it just makes me feel famous. And so we did this whole branding workshop, and it was like a 7-day workshop. So I've taken, not 7-day, a 7-hour workshop. And I've taken that and condensed it down into a really small amount of time to focus on the most important thing. So that's what we're going to look at today, is finding your most empowering why. So why are you doing the things that you do? Why are you in the career field that you're in? Why are you making the personal connections that you are? And then I also want to challenge you to create some sort of action plan, because I have come to find out that all of these presentations, all of these conferences and things that we do are cool, but they're not very valuable if we don't actually take the content that we learn in them and figure out how to apply them to our everyday life. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start by exploring a little bit of what is a brand, what's the importance of a brand. So the thing that I think makes the most sense to me is the Jeff Bezos quote, which is, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's how people feel about a company, how people feel about a product. And it's not necessarily the service or the product that you're providing, but that experience that's being provided. One of my all-time favorite examples of this is Chick-fil-A. And that is, and if you're not a fan of Chick-fil-A, that's fine. You're allowed to be wrong. It's not a big deal. So if you don't identify with Chick-fil-A, think of a brand that you do strongly identify with. So think of a company or a business or a product or something that you do strongly identify with. The thing with Chick-fil-A is, right, they sell chicken nuggets, they sell chicken sandwiches, and I don't know, other crap. Chicken nuggets are the only thing that I buy. So that's what I'm interested in. There's a lot of other places that sell chicken nuggets. And particularly for where I live and where I'm located, my Chick-fil-A is probably like 20 minutes from where I live. There's a McDonald's 30 seconds from where I live. I will get in my car and drive to Chick-fil-A for Chick-fil-A versus than going to McDonald's. Now, don't get me wrong. Some days I go to McDonald's, but I would prefer to go to Chick-fil-A, right? And part of it is because it's because of the experience. It's because you're in a line that's 20 cars long and it took 2 seconds. At McDonald's, you're in a line of 2 cars and it takes 20 minutes, right? It's because it's my pleasure. Like, how can I serve you? How can I, you feel warm and fuzzy when you leave Chick-fil-A, plus you have nuggets, right? When I leave McDonald's, I feel a little dirty, and then I have chicken nuggets, right? So it's about that overall experience. And this could be the same thing could be said for companies that provide any type of service. So if you're in the service industry or things like that, example for where I work, as far as being an academic advisor, I've seen it. There are advisors who will give you the answer to what you need, but you walk out of the office thinking, man, that person was a jerk. And I had a terrible time talking to that person, versus you can walk out of an office and say, man, that was a really great experience. I enjoyed the feelings that I had during that opportunity. One of the best ways, I think, Marie Forleo says it best, and she's like, people don't fall in love with a product or a service. They fall in love with the way that product or service makes them feel. And sometimes we go to a store and we buy a water bottle because we needed a water bottle. But then at some point we buy a water bottle from a company that made us feel something different than anyone else. And now we only buy water bottles from that company, even if they're more expensive. Or we drive 20 minutes to Chick-fil-A because you feel better when you leave Chick-fil-A. So it's all about that whole process. And one of the things that I found really interesting is I had a student tell me once, and kind of that concept of, what does it matter? If the product is good, if the service is good, the experience doesn't matter. Well, I had a student tell me once, he's like, honestly, I didn't really care how much you knew about university policies until I understood how much you cared about me as a student. And I think that that's really true, right? That was a part of my brand and part of the experience, is the student knew that they were cared and loved for. So then he was like, oh, actually, you do know things about university procedures as well. So creating that brand is what's going to give you that opportunity to focus on how you or your business or your service. I'm thinking about Andrew and his coffee, right? Like, yes, it's coffee, but it's more than that. It's an experience. Like, what is that experience? What are those feelings that you're getting while you're having that coffee, right? Like how do you connect those things together? And I think one of the biggest things I get a lot is like, well, why is this important? Why do we need a personal brand? Why does this even matter? And it's because people are overstimulated and oversaturated. There are 1,000 places for us to go get chicken nuggets. There are a ton of places for companies for us to buy water bottles from. There's a bazillion different places to go get coffee. There's a quadrillion, that's not a real number, probably. All you science mathy people can correct me. Photographers that you can hire. So why would you hire this one particular one, right? Like that authenticity is what is going to cut through all of the noise and is what's going to make you stand out and make you different in a field that's oversaturated. And literally every field is oversaturated. So it doesn't matter what field you work in, it's oversaturated for sure. So the way that you can do that is by creating something real, creating this real authentic brand. And I don't say like authentic brand as like a fun, crunchy buzzword, because I know that it is right now, but in a genuine way, I want it to come from something very real. So this is where you're going to get out your note-taking devices, because we are going to do a couple of activities in order to tap into something very, very real for you. And this is how we're going to get to your why. So we're going to do a couple of activities. We're going to interpret the results of said activities and then connect that to your overall why. Now, when I did these at the workshop, I bawled like a big baby, like just like tears streaming down my face. But that meant that it was coming from something real. It was coming from a very real place for me, and I was getting very in touch. There were people that were like cackling, laughing to themselves at the table during some of these activities. There were other people that did not have outward emotions. So again, I want you to remember your permission slip to have actual big emotions and strong feelings as we go through these. So the first thing that's going to come up is I'm going to ask you some life-probing questions, and I want you to just think about them and write down the answers. And after I read them and give some suggestions, I will stop talking so that you can actually think. So the first one is, what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? This is the one that made me sob, fair warning. This doesn't necessarily have to be about your work. This could just think about it. Like, you're dead. What sort of legacy did you want to leave behind? What do you want people to say about you when you're gone? What is your favorite kind of compliment? Like when someone, again, whether that's personal work, professional work, whatever that may look like what's your favorite compliment? When I did this at the workshop, my answer to this question was all related to Ryla. Like, I didn't do it on purpose, but that's where all my favorite compliments came from. So it doesn't necessarily have to come from your job. And then, what is life about for you, and what is life not about for you? Kind of, what are those things that are really important versus those things that are not? You can answer one of these, you can answer all of these, you can skip around, but at least try to answer one of these to really connect it deep in your gut and in your soul about what is life about for you. And now I'm going to stop talking for a couple of minutes, and it's going to be silent so that you can think and focus and really feel your feelings. Ready, go. gonna give you like another 30 seconds to a minute so that we have enough time for all of our activities. Just a reminder to get connected to something real inside of you, some really strong feelings. Don't think too hard about it. Like, trust your gut. What do you want people to say about you at your funeral? What's your favorite compliment? What is life about for you? What is life not about for you? Okay, so if you're still writing, you can keep writing. I'm going to explain the next little activity as well. So the next slide that's going to pop up on the screen is going to be a whole bunch of words. And I want you to trust your gut. Like, don't try to read through every single word and analyze every single word. I want you to sort of glance at the screen, read through some of the words, see where your eye goes, and just really find like 4 to 5 words that resonate with you. And that could be because they're what you want, they're what you already feel, they're things that people have said about you. Like, it doesn't matter. It's called a gut check. So just look at the words and pick out the like 4 to 5, 3 to 4 that just really seem to resonate with you, and write those down next to your answers to these questions as well. And I'm not going to give you as much time on this one because I really want you to check your gut on this. Okay, so now what I want you to do is take a look at how you answered those first questions, some of the words that came up for you in gut check, and look to see if there are any themes. Is there anything that's connecting? Is there an overall theme of maybe love that's coming up for you, or an overall theme of influence or power, control? Like, take a look to see what might be coming up for you, because I got too hot. I had to take my blanket off. Because what we're going to talk about now is connecting these to what in kind of different psychosocial worlds are referred to as the 8 core human needs. So these are psychological needs, basically, and they are called core human needs because we all need them. So when I show you this list, you're going to be like, well, I need all of those things. That's correct. That's what a healthy human being should think, is that they need all 8 of these. However, there should be 1 or 2 that rank a little bit higher than any of the other ones. And so what I want you to do, the goal of this is to pick your top 2 core human needs. If you can get it down to just 1, I highly recommend getting it down to just 1. But when I tell people to pick 1, they seem like they can't. When I tell them they can pick 2, then they just pick 1 anyway. So you can pick 2, but I strongly encourage you to get it down to 1. So the 8 needs are security, freedom, identity, connection, love, creation, growth, and contribution. So there's a little definition next to each of them that you can read through as well. Again, you should sort of look at this and be like, well, I want all 8 of those things. That's great. That means you're a healthy, functioning adult, that you would want all 8 of these. But again, there should be 1 or 2 that are driving you a little more than the other. I'm going to read a couple of like key words that resonate with each of these core human needs. And because sometimes that helps people pick out which one means the most to them. So for security, synonyms and other words or words that you have circled during the gut check part would be certainty, control, consistency, balance, routine, stability, comfort, safety, trust, ease, confidence, reliability. For freedom, you might have adventure, autonomy, innovation, change, self-expression, variety, curiosity, transform, explore. Identity, worth, significance, inspire, leader, purpose, stand out, value, influence, motivate. For connection, it could also be acceptance, community, uplift, unify, blend, tribe, connect, join, unite, belong, closeness. For love, that can also look like empathy, passion, understanding, compassion, responsiveness, care, sharing, complete. Creation could be expression, purpose, build, work, intent, flow, put together. Growth could look like development, mastery, learn, educate, challenge, potential, progression, expansion, increase, productivity. And then finally, contribution, inspire, empower, serve, teach, mention, change lives, opportunity, make a difference, give back, counsel, support. So again, 1 to 2 of these needs should really be driving you. And if you're having a hard time figuring out which 1 to 2 needs, that's where I would say look back at whatever themes may have developed between the life probing questions and the gut check. So like for my own experience, when I did this, one of the biggest things that I had hoped that someone would say about me at my funeral is that like I made a difference in people's lives and that I made the world a better place. Like I truly hope that someone will say that when I die, like the world was better because she was in it, right? And so then as I started looking through my core human needs, the one that drives me the most is contribution. That sense of service and focusing and helping on others and supporting others. Those keywords of make a difference, teach, mentor, change lives, like that all just resonated with me. And I was like, oh, that's for sure what pushes me to do the things that I do in my life. Is there anybody, and I can't see everybody's faces, so if you have a question or you want to say something, you'll have to unmute yourself and actually say it. But is there anyone that's having trouble figuring out which one of these needs is driving them, or they're having a hard time choosing between 2?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I
second.
Yeah, I can put my nods, and I feel like there's no way I'm the only one.
Okay, perfect. Well, I can only see like 3 people at a time since I'm sharing my screen. So I'm like, I don't know. Okay, is there anyone brave enough to like workshop it out loud with me and let me ask you some questions to help you get to your core human need?
I will.
Okay, perfect. So are you stuck between 2, 3, all 8? Where are you?
Well, I feel like the words that I picked from the previous screen were in 4 different of those categories.
Okay. Okay, so which 4 are you looking at?
So I picked serve, balance, empower, and influence.
Okay. And what of the core human needs, like which ones are popping off the page at you, or off the screen, I guess?
I would say, honestly, for me, freedom and contribution.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. What were some of the answers to the questions that were asked for you?
So I only had answers for the first question about what I would want people to say about my funeral, and the second question. So at my funeral, I'd like people to say that I was loyal, a true friend, that I was honest. And then the second question, compliments that I appreciate, or one that reflect, have I made someone feel better about themselves, or if I was able to give them good advice, that people valued what I had to say.
That's awesome. I think contribution makes a lot of sense in that area as far as that. I would also almost say that connection would probably make a lot of sense for you, just based upon those things that you were saying. And kind of part of connection is that ability to unite and to blend and closeness. And y'all are all at sort of like an unfair advantage because I know you. Most people that I present to, I don't know them. So they can, hide whatever or whatnot. But Andrew, like I'm thinking with you and like this company that you're creating and you're building and almost this tribe and this community that you're going to be able to build out of that company. I mean, that could fall under a lot of categories, but connection is the one that keeps coming up for me, or the idea of contribution as well. I don't know if that feels like it fits for you or not, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think both of those feel, I mean, that's it. They all sound like yes, that one.
They all sound like yes, right? Yeah. So what I might recommend for you as trying to like figure some of these out, and this is something that we talked about at the workshop as well. Like when you're first introduced to this idea, it's really hard to say, okay, like some people are like, yes, that's the one. And then there are people that are like, well, it's this one. And then like 3 days later, they'll be like, no, it's this one. And then a little bit later, they're like, actually, no, it's this one. And so one thing that we found as a group after we did this was it was kind of helpful for us to write down some of those words, whether it was the core human need word or it was one of the words associated with it. So in your case, it could be like balance and serve and like the other words that you had chosen, and just kind of put them on sticky notes and put them maybe in your mirror or your car. I don't know if any of us are getting in our car often enough to use that anymore, but our mirror or our refrigerator door or our bedroom. And just look at the words often and see like, okay, like that word actually doesn't feel like it fits for me anymore. And then take that word down, or if you've got like 2 or 3 core human needs, like you could put them all there. When I first started, I thought growth was mine. And then the more that I thought about it, I was like, actually, no, contribution feels like a better fit for me. So it's okay to kind of be between a couple and then try them out and try them on for size and be like, okay, let me live my life as if connection is my driving need. And then you do that for a couple of days and you're like, no, that doesn't feel right. Let me try a different one for a couple of days and see what that feels like. Okay, is there anyone else that is struggling and willing to sort of workshop it a little bit? Okay, that's okay. We don't have to. The next biggest part of, so this is your why. This is this core human need, whichever one you land on or whichever 2 you land on is going to be what's referred to as your why. Then you're going to take that why and you're going to transform it into a word. And so that might, for some cases, it might be the same thing. Like your core human need might be contribution and your word is contribution, or your core human word or your why, which comes from your human need, might be connection, but your word is tribe. And so essentially like your word is maybe just something that feels a little more unique to you rather than one of these pre-prescribed 8 words, 8 core. Good gosh, that's a hard word. Core human needs. So a couple of examples, like for me, contribution is my why and my word is empower. So with everything that I do, particularly in my job, I want to empower the people that I'm working with. And so I try to remember that. I word my emails in a way that is empowering for students. I set up presentations. I hold meetings with my students in a way that's empowering for them. So much of what I do in RILA is driven by my desire to empower and to contribute to that group as well. So that's kind of where that is. Allison, the woman that I did the workshop with, her core need is love. And then her word is light. And she was like, I want to share more light and joy in the world in order to create a better space of love. So that's kind of what that can look like for you. I recommend writing down your why and your word. And like I was talking about earlier with your why, you can try a couple of different things with your word. It took me a while to get to empower. And honestly, it took me a while to accept that empower was my word because I wanted it to be a cooler word than that, because I feel like empower is just a fancy buzzword that everybody uses now. And so I tried all these other words and then I just kept coming back to empower. And I was like, well, this is what drives me to do what I do. I want to empower other people to take hold of their life and to do what they're doing as well. And then I have gone over my time, but nobody can stop me. So other elements of your brand that you can have as you're building that is your core message. So once you have that why and that word, then you build on that and you say, okay, how am I going to fulfill my why? If my why and my word is to contribute and to empower people, how am I going to do that? And that may look like, a lot of times this is like a slogan for brands. So some of my favorite examples, okay, Red Bull, right? Red Bull's slogan is Red Bull gives you wings, right? Which core need is that? That's freedom. Come on, Red Bull gives you wings, that's freedom. Subaru, because Elizabeth and I love Subarus and I'm gonna match her car one day. Love is what makes a Subaru a Subaru. What is their core human need? Love, right? Nike, their slogan is just do it. To me, that sounds like growth, right? Your expansion of your capacity and your capability. So you can also look at other brands and other companies and start seeing like, what are their slogans? What are their brand? What's their core message to you? And how is that connecting? And you can create your own. Mine is that everybody already has everything inside of them that they need to succeed. And I tell my students that all the time. I say that to them all the time. I'm like, you have everything that you need to succeed, because I'm wanting to empower them to take hold of their own life and particularly their educational career because of what I'm doing. So that's one thing you can look at is how are you going to fulfill your why? Your brand promises then are how do you do that? And so maybe that how is, for me, it's one-on-one appointments, it's emails. For Andrew, it could be your actual coffee shop. It could be what words you put on your little coffee sleeves. I don't know enough about coffee to give any more examples than that. But like, this is the how part. This is the really technical part of it. Like, what are those things? Maybe it's swag. Maybe it's presentations. Maybe it is just like you put a like the specific way that you word your email or a quote that you put in the bottom of your signature. Methods of implementation is that same thing. And so it's like, what are those things that you're going to use to deliver that promise and that core message? Brand adjectives. So this is your vocabulary. These are your common words and phrases. This is what you would say that other people don't say. I say things like coolio, perfecto, and totes all the time in my emails with my students. And I'm pretty sure they're like, well, this chick from the 90s, because they're all little now. I'm much older than my students than when I started this career. But that's what sort of is setting me apart from the other advisors that they're meeting with, is they're like, okay, this person is having this kind of comment. And then your unique value proposition are just traits and characteristics that are unique to you, particularly within your space. So again, as an academic advisor, I'm usually one of the younger ones in the office. I use a lot of pop culture references, and I have a lot of pizza and a lot of Texas in my office, in my pictures in my office, things like that. And so that's how I am sort of standing out. You know, I think I just keep picking on Andrew because we've used him throughout the presentation, but sort of like a traveling coffee stand, right? Like, it's not in a specific location. It's not, you know, like, that's what's making you unique and stand out. So these are all the things that you can build on. I have also turned mine into what I call my advising model or my advising philosophy. And so I have created this kind of document that puts all of these things in there. Like, what's my core message to my students? How do I use that? What are things that I promise and commit to? Different opportunities like that. So what I want you to think about as far as action, Sarah told me 20 minutes and I tried really hard and I just couldn't do it. I'm so sorry. So I just want you to think about what you can do with any of this information. Like, what's the next piece of your brand that you can work on? What's one thing that you're going to immediately implement today? So this is something that Allison says all the time. It's a twist on a RuPaul quote, which is that inside is cute, but action is drop dead gorgeous. It's really cute for all of us to sit here and say, oh, this is my why, or like, I just really want to contribute to the world. And then we just don't go do anything, right? But it's really freaking drop dead gorgeous if we will go out and actually implement the things that we've learned. So I want you to think about those pieces, whether it's, okay, all of this was really overwhelming, but I know my brand vocabulary. I know words that I like to say, so I'm going to write those down. Perfect. That's great. You don't have to do any of this in order. You can build it in whatever way makes sense to you. Or maybe it's the concept also of like, okay, I'm just going to put up a couple of words and figure out what works best for me. So this is how you can find that core why, how you can use it to build your own personal brand and let it drive what you're doing in your life. I have found doing this and creating this is given me so much more purpose in life, and it's given me so much more motivation than I ever had, particularly when it comes to like menial tasks like emails, which is all I do anymore now. I have found, I just remind myself like, okay, like, why are you doing this? Okay, this is why. Find a way to empower whoever it is that you're emailing. Find a way to have those conversations. So this is my contact information if you don't happen to know how to get a hold of me. If you happen to have any other questions or concerns, or you want to workshop some of this, or you're like, hey, will you send me that presentation because you were talking too fast and I don't know what you said at the end. I cannot express to you how much knowing my why has improved my life. And I just really hope that you were able to get something out of this and you can use this same thing to help improve your life and everything that you're doing as well. Thank you for coming to my overtime TED Talk. The end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madalyn. That was wonderful. And I think that we probably all got a lot out of that. And it is absolutely okay that you went over time because I knew you would. So I told you 20 minutes. Yes, everyone feel free to come off mute and applaud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so really all I want to do to wrap up is the 4-way test, unless anyone has anything they would like to share, any other announcements that maybe you weren't thinking about 45 minutes ago. If so, come off mute because I can't see you all because my computer has decided to be weird.
I just wanted to say, I couldn't see any of the presentation, but I guess my computer's messing up too, but it was still very powerful. So not even being able to, not even seeing it, it was still able to get the message across. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Maddie's just that good.
And I just wanted to remind everyone about our virtual blood drive that's still going on until June 30th. So we need more pledges. So be sure to go look over at our Facebook page, the Leaders in Service Rotary Facebook page, and share our post and get your friends and family to donate.
How many pledges are we at now?
11. So 11, and our goal is 100, and we have 7 weeks. So
okay, let's do this, team.
Yeah, we got this.
I have a question, Paige, about that.
Okay.
Are you having luck with scheduling giving blood? Because I had a really hard time finding places to actually schedule a time to give blood around here.
Yeah,
I had to book mine a week and a half to 2 weeks out.
Gotcha.
That was in Massachusetts, and my understanding is in Texas, you guys are opening up and doing all kinds of Greg Abbott things. So I'm assuming that means that you can also do healthy things in addition to whatever Abbott thinks is appropriate.
Yeah, for a while you had to make an appointment to donate blood, but I even got an email like sometime this week that there's already like a blood drive, that an actual person blood drive that's happening somewhere in Dallas coming up soon. So I think it'll be more easily available. But yeah, I had to schedule mine out about 2 weeks whenever I donated too.
Okay.
Yep. And you can pledge without scheduling an appointment through that system. And you can also pledge now and go give blood in 6 or 7 weeks if you do have to schedule it out. So just keep that in mind too, that once you fill out the form, you've made your pledge. And then from there, it's just a matter of doing the donation. So if you do plan to, and you're just having trouble scheduling, go ahead and do that pledge still. And share that with your friends and family too. You know, if they can't go out right now and donate, but they plan to within the next couple of months, still make that pledge. And then we can show those numbers off when we hit 100. Awesome. Thank you for that reminder, Paige. Any other announcements, questions, reminders? Okay, cool. So I cannot share my screen right now because, again, my computer is being weird. I'm literally on my computer and my phone both right now for the rest of this meeting. So I'm going to give you all a second to pull up the 4-way test and Google it if you don't have it memorized. But I also want to remind you all that we will recite the 4-way test at the end of every meeting. We are now reciting it at RILA every year, so definitely something worth memorizing because, you know, eventually I'm not going to give you 30 seconds to a minute to pull it up via Google. So that being said, I think I'm going to try this the way that we did it last time and ask for 4 volunteers to come off mute and do each of the 4 parts. So I'll start it out and then 4 volunteers will jump in and do 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'll volunteer.
Cool. We got Paige. We got 3 others. I can't see your videos if you're raising your hand. Okay. We got 2 more?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sarah, Paige.
What number am I?
Paige will be number 1. Sarah's number 2. Andrew, I think I heard you come off mute, so you can be number 3. Who wants to be number 4?
I will do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Reagan. Okay, so everyone on their own recite this as well. Paige will read off number 1, Sarah number 2, Andrew number 3, and Reagan number 4. So the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Number 1.
Is it the truth?
Number 2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And number 4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Awesome. Thanks, guys. This was a great meeting. We're going to wrap up a few minutes early. Thank you again to Madalyn. That was a very great presentation. This was recorded, so it will be shared on our Facebook page, so you can watch it over again, share it with your friends. Guests are always welcome at our meetings, so we would love to see your friends, family, whoever in your life could use Rotary. We'd love to have them join us and learn more about what we do. Otherwise, have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see everyone next week.